And then I should also say something about anthropology abroad versus anthropology at home again, because I think it's a big issue. More and more of the whole international community of anthropologists consists of people doing their research in their own country. But the thing is, of course, also that there is a kind of combination of both these things. And I think Italy has certainly experienced this, where a lot of Italian researchers have been doing their research in Italy. At the same time, this country has been one which has been very attractive for field workers from elsewhere, not least North Americans, British people, and certainly some Scandinavians and so on as well. Partly, I guess, because Italy has an attractive culture and an attractive climate, and has not been the most expensive place to work in, and so on. In other places, this has been a more recent development, and I do hear about it from Eastern and Central Europe, from colleagues there, that, well, they do much of their research at home, but they are now receiving these research visits from Western Europe, from North America. And there is a certain tension here, because there is a sense that the people coming in from the outside may be better funded, may have better access to research libraries, may have heard of the most recent theoretical trends and all these kinds of things. At the same time, of course, they are not necessarily as knowledgeable about local things, because after all they come in as foreigners. And there is this kind of tension which generates at present, I think, a certain amount of ill feeling, and I think this is also something that needs to be confronted, and the idea ought to be to work toward more collaborative relationships. Now, what about this anthropology going abroad then? I mean, like Tommaso going to India and my going to Nigeria and so on. Since there are Indian anthropologists and Nigerian anthropologists and so on, what's this for? Is there now still a good reason for anthropologists traveling? And since the tendency for anthropologists to remain at home has become quite strong, I think we by now also need to put the case for the traveling anthropologists and see what are the real arguments for it. And sometimes, of course, well, there was a time when the traveling anthropologists from, let's say, Oxford or Cambridge could be quite arrogant about this and say that, well, you know, we understand things better being outsiders, we have insights that the insiders can't come up with. Well, that may look a bit counterintuitive, and I think it is worth discussing. You can come up with wonderful examples of foreign observers in and out of anthropology who've become quite valued researchers and commentators on the societies they have been studying. In the United States, there is even outside, before anthropology, the idea of the French young aristocrat de Tocqueville traveling in the young American Republic in the 19th century and sort of identifying its soul in ways that the Americans sort of confessed that they hadn't quite, at least at that stage, done themselves. But I think it is a debatable notion. I don't think locals and natives are necessarily so blinded to the things around them that they will never be able to see things for themselves. And so I think the point that I would rather make is that, well, the traveling anthropologists in a time of global interconnectedness is good, because it's nice, let's say, to have a Swedish anthropologist being able to tell Swedes about West Africa or South Asia or something like that. Because they can act as cultural brokers, sort of. They have a certain amount of local knowledge at home, which means that they can do the cultural translation. There can be a certain trust for one of your own, give you these understandings. It is, I think, very parallel to the foreign correspondence of the news media, that it's a good thing to have the correspondence based outside and reporting home. But then also I found out in my study that while one might think that the logic of foreign news reporting should be stronger than ever, foreign correspondents are a sort of a vanishing tribe, a threatened group, because it's a rather expensive occupation for the news media to keep, and so their continued existence is not really all that safe. That brings me to, well, a topic that I shall take up.
Allora, quindi volevo ritornare un attimo sulla distinzione tra antropologia lontano da casa, l'antropologia a casa. Vari paesi hanno svolto ricerca al proprio interno, l'Italia tra questi ha fatto molta ricerca antropologica e tra l'altro ha attirato studiosi invece da fuori. Proprio questo rapporto tra esterni, tra sguardo esterno e sguardo interno, quello che vuole problematizzare un po' U.Hannerz. Da un lato appunto si ritiene che gli esterni possano avere a volte più strumenti analitici o conoscenze più aggiornate, quindi che arriva da fuori a un armamentario che gli permette meglio di comprendere quello che accade, dall'altro invece chi è interno ritiene di avere invece maggiore sensibilità e capacità di comprendere. C'è quindi una tensione tra questi punti di vista che spesso si è manifestata in antropologia e che va affrontata in vista soprattutto di approcci più collaborativi. Quelli che definisce antropologi viaggiatori un tempo avevano anche una sorta di arroganza nel descrivere il vantaggio epistemologico di cui erano portatori, quindi gli esterni sanno meglio degli altri, anzi addirittura i locali non possono comprendere davvero la propria cultura, quindi posizioni che erano proprie dell'antropologia di Oxford e Cambridge. Ma ci sono anche esempi invece in cui gli esterni hanno effettivamente attraverso il loro lavoro fornito un punto di vista che poi è stato fatto proprio dai nativi, dai locali. Un esempio che fa è la visione di Tocqueville della democrazia americana. Ma del resto appunto non si può assolutamente dire che i locali nativi siano ciechi a ciò che li circonda, anzi ci sono altrettanti esempi di ottime etnografie fatte dagli interni, dai locali. Un aspetto interessante però dell'antropologia fatta lontano è quella che permette a chi la fa di raccontare al proprio pubblico nazionale, quindi appunto fa l'esempio della Svezia, che cosa avviene al di fuori dei confini nazionali, quindi anche un modo per paesi che non hanno fin dall'inizio avuto questo tipo di antropologia di raccontare la diversità al proprio pubblico interno. Un po' quello che fanno anche i corrispondenti, quindi corrispondenti giornalistici, sebbene loro stessi all'interno di questa etnografia e la ricerca del professor U.Hannerz abbiano detto che sono una tribù in estinzione, dal momento che sempre meno fondi sono a disposizione per continuare a lavorare.